What's up, guys? So, we once again have rumors circulating of a live-action Drizzt Do'urden production, this time in the form of a show. There were rumors back in the 90s of a Drizzt movie that was in the works, and then once again in 2008 when it was supposedly leaked that DreamWorks was working on a production casting Wesley Snipes as Drizzt and Lawrence Fishburne as Jaraxel. In today's video, we're going to go over a brief history of who Drizzt is and what a potential live-action show could mean. So, let's jump into it. So this is the first time that I've done a video like this. I usually don't review shows, but since this is a show about Drizzt, this runs pretty adjacent to a lot of my content. So if you enjoy this type of content and want to see more, please let me know in the comment section so we can work on some more videos. If you're newer to Dungeons & Dragons, or you don't have the dreaded 19 preceding your birth year, or if Baldur's Gate 3 was your introduction to the series, then you might not know who Drizzt is. It's curious that Larian chose not to include Drizzt in BG3 as he was in both BG1 and BG2. Drizzt was introduced in 1988 in R.A. Salvatore's book series known as the Icewind Dale Trilogy. Originally, the main character was supposed to be Wulfgar, who had all of the trappings of your standard high fantasy MC: long blonde hair, muscle-bound, young, and charismatic. Drizzt was supposed to be Wulfgar's sidekick, but due to overwhelming popularity with fans, Drizzt quickly became the main focus. Drizzt Do'urden is a Drow ranger that is originally from the Drow city of Menzoberranzan. When we are first introduced to him in the Icewind Dale trilogy, he is living on the surface in a remote tundra far to the north. Drow are rarely seen on the surface, and when they are, it almost never bodes well for anyone unfortunate enough to witness them. When the Icewind Dale trilogy was written, all the Drow were considered to be chaotic evil. This was later changed in the 3rd edition of Dungeons & Dragons, but at the time when the Icewind Dale trilogy was written, meeting a non-evil Drow was basically unheard of, which is why Drizzt is so rare. After the huge success of Drizzt, R.A. Salvatore wrote a prequel trilogy to the events of Icewind Dale that tells the story of how Drizzt came to be on the surface and his time spent in the Underdark. For the most part, all of the Drow in Menzoberranzan are murderous psychopaths, but as the story progresses, you learn that there are some characters that are not outright evil, but they do what they have to in order to survive in the Underdark. If you haven't read these books, I highly encourage you to do so. They are fantastic. I've read every single Drizzt book multiple times, and I love every single one of them. There is not much that we know about the show, other than that it will be streaming on Paramount+. There are two potential timelines that a Drizzt show could be set in. Even though the legend of the Drizzt story spans more than 24 books, some of the settings or timelines would be hard for a show to be centered on without a considerable amount of backstory for people who are unfamiliar with the character or the series. The first setting that I think the show could be set in would be during the Icewind Dale trilogy. This would feature an older Drizzt and also a wider variety of cast, since there would be humans, dwarves, and a Drow. I think this is the least likely of the two choices, as this part of the book focuses more on Wulfgar and Drizzt is more of like a backup character. Also, the Icewind Dale trilogy is rather slow, as it's mostly world building and character development. Drizzt teaching Wulfgar how to fight, Brunnar making Aegis Fang for Wulfgar, etc. Since the show has been called a Drizzt show, it is unlikely they would go with this setting. The only reason why I think the producers might choose this route would be the ease of casting. It would be a mixed cast of ethnicities, opposed to our next potential setting, which would be all Drow. The second potential setting would be in the Underdark, set in the main Drow city of Menzoberranzan. This would feature a younger Drizzt, so depending on how early they start the show, Drizzt would most likely need to be played by a child actor or at the very least a teenage actor. The Drow city is rife with strife, with a ton of political intrigue and infighting. Think like King's Landing from Game of Thrones, but all Drow. I think this is the more likely of the settings because there is a lot that happens in the Underdark before Drizzt makes his way to Icewind Dale. In Menzoberranzan, it is a matriarchy and all of the males are viewed as lesser beings. So much so that once a house has 2 sons, if they have a 3rd son, that son is sacrificed to the Drow's deity, Loth, the Spider Queen. Drizzt is actually originally set for this fate, but while on the offering table, news is brought to his mother that her eldest son has died, making Drizzt the 2nd and not the 3rd son. This setting is far more interesting than Icewind Dale, with a lot of unique characters and some cool character building events that make Drizzt who he is. The only reason I think producers might not go this route is it would be significantly harder to cast. Having one drow whose skin are almost purple would be relatively easy to pull off and make believable in a cast of all non-drow. Having an entire city of drow would be difficult to cast and make everyone believe they were the same race of people due to the drow having very unique appearances. One of the biggest things this show has to do right in order to be well received by the fans is proper casting. Just look at the Borderlands movie. If this show is set in Minzo Berezan with a younger Drizzt, I think Timothée Chalamet would be a great choice. He has the right build and the right depth of character and experience to portray all of Drizzt's emotions and his inner struggles. Chalamet could definitely play a young Drizzt, but the producers would have to find a way to make his skin tone believable without being offensive, as the drow, for all intents and purposes, are black-skinned people. Another solid choice for young Drizzt, I think, would be Caleb McLaughlin. He showed incredible range in Stranger Things and Concrete Cowboy. He also has the right physique and vulnerability to be true to Drizzt's character. If we're going with an older, more mature Drizzt, I think Tenoch Huerta would be a solid choice. His performance as Neymar in Wakanda Forever shows his ability to portray a strong character with empathy. Another good choice for an older Drizzt would be Gael Garcia Bernal. Although he is a bit older, I think he has the right look and he could develop the physique needed in order to play Drizzt. As for the supporting cast, I'll touch on a few of the major characters and some casting options that I think would be good choices. For Matron Malice, I think Michelle Yeoh would be an amazing choice. If you haven't seen Everything Everywhere All at Once, first of all, stop watching this video and go watch it right now. The movie is absolutely amazing. But if you have seen that movie, you would see that she has the right stern exterior and the intensity to be an amazing Matron Malice. For Zaknafein, there are two choices that come to mind, but depending on the budget of the show, I doubt they could afford to hire these actors or if these actors would even want to do the role. The first would be Idris Elba. Zaknafein is a complex character who hates the Drow society, but he's bound to it. Elba as Zaknafein would bring a powerful tragic depth to the role, making Zaknafein memorable with his strength and compassion that would eventually shape Drizzt to be who he is. The second dream casting for Zaknafein, at least for me, would be Antonio Banderas. He brings a mix of charisma, physical agility, and a well-honed sense of tragedy to the role. If you have any doubt on Banderas being able to play the role well, just watch the most recent Puss in Boots movie. Zaknafein is a character who walks the fine line between defiance and duty, trapped in a society that he hates, but bound to it simply to just survive. Banderas as Zaknafein would make the character both heroic and heartbreaking. For Jaraxxul Banray, I think Pedro Pascal would make a solid choice, and given the amount of work he's done in the nerdy sector, he very well might be up for it. Pascal has charm and versatility, which would make him an excellent choice for the charismatic and unpredictable Drow mercenary. I could go on like this all day, naming potential roles for the different actors and actresses, but the truth of the matter is, we don't really know too much about the show or who's going to be cast or even if it happens at all. This is just something that I like to do whenever there's a movie that's going to be coming out or show that's coming out. I like to kind of think of who the potential actors and actresses could be. But what are your thoughts? Do you think this show is actually going to happen, or will it be the third son that didn't make it? Do you have any other suggestions for actors or actresses for the various roles? Let me know in the comment section. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing, as it does really help with the YouTube algorithm. I make weekly content on various gaming topics like build guides, game reviews, gaming news, things like that. Till next time, have a great day/night. See ya.